these motor mounts right here are going to come out because the motor mounts that fit this bracket are for the stock JKG. And we want a motor mount that will fit the LS style motor, the Gen 3. So we're going to cut these out, and there'll be a new motor mount weld in here. The motor mount's coming from Novak adapters. I don't have it yet. Normally I would wait to cut these out until I have the bracket. But I looked up online what the bracket looks like and looked at the instructions on it, and it says to cut these out. So the way I'm going to cut them out, I could actually weld them back in if I needed them later, but I'm not going to need them later. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them out and prep this frame and have it all ready, so when those brackets show up, all I got to do is set them in here, position them, and weld them. One of the things I like about this helmet here, it's a welding helmet, but inside here I have a couple of switches. Right here I can switch it from 9 to 13 shade, or from 0 to 8 shade. And that allows me to use my welding helmet as my plasma cutter helmet, and I'm going to use the gouging tip. But then I can adjust the darkness on the screen here, so it allows me to be able to see in there exactly what I'm doing with the plasma cutter. And I turn it down to about 2.5 or 3 shade darkness for the plasma cutter. And when I'm welding with a MIG welder, I turn it up to about 9. Got my plasma cutter set at 28 with the gouging tip on it. And I'm just going to go around right next to the weld and gouge out the weld so that the bracket will come off. You can see what I'm doing with the gouging tip is I'm just on the other side of the weld cutting into the metal that we're going to get rid of. And I can see when I've gone through, because I can see the next layer down in there. And the nice thing about the gouging tip is it's not going to cut into it, because it just slowly starts to open up and I can see it, and then I just move along and keep cutting out that metal. Now I could come on this side and do that with the weld itself, but I'm going to go ahead and take this piece off, and then I'll come back and just shave the weld off. I find it's easier for me to cut on right next to the weld, get rid of that piece, and then I can turn my gouger and just slice that stuff off, and then I don't gouge into the frame at all. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I don't know why it's so satisfying, but after you've cut something like this, you come in here, and look at all that rust and stuff that's fallen out. You just barely grab a hold of it. It just falls off. You can see the rust where two pieces of metal were together. Now here it is after we've used the plasma cutter. You can see how smooth it is. There's really not much left there to grind off with the flapper wheel. For years I used to do everything with a skinning wheel. I'd grind things smooth, I'd cut stuff with it, and it works, it's just not very smooth. Then I discovered these flapper wheels, and they work really nice to clean things up. Now we're armed with a flapper wheel. Now you can see how smooth. Put some paint on that, nobody will know. We're going to put another motor mount that's going to weld in right in here. Most of that's going to be covered up anyway.